All right, so what I'm going to be talking about today is the events in Almaty, Kazakhstan, which happened in January 6th, approximately 3 days ago. Almaty, Kazakhstan. Almaty is the capital of Kazakhstan, which is a Central Asian republic. It is an ex-Soviet state. It is a very large country, more or less southeast of modern-day Moscow. In the riots in Almaty, people have died. It was a very large riots. It was described as the worst unrest seen since approximately 30 years ago, when Kazakhstan achieved or received independence, I should say. Thousands were arrested, hundreds were injured, and 60 were put in intensive care. When the riots took place, they were initially intended to be protests for fuel hikes. Since then, they've become anti-governmental riots, and they've become out of control for the Kazakhstani government to handle, for the Almaty government to handle. The leader of Kazakhstan in the government in Almaty is Tokayev. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, Tokayev. He has requested assistance from the Russian government to intervene. Kazakhstan and Russia are a part of an international security organization called Collective Security Treaty Organization, or CSTO. It's effectively a group of ex-Soviet republics that are aligned to ensure each other's security. These countries consist of Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. These countries all decided to intervene on behalf of Kazakhstan. However, the primary anchor of the intervention in the unrest in Almaty is, of course, Russia. Russia is the primary anchor of the Collective Security Treaty Organization as well. They're the most powerful government and they have the most powerful military as well. The Collective Security Treaty Organization is effectively Russia ensuring that they're highly involved in the affairs of their near abroad, primarily states within Central Asia, near the Caucasus, and in Eastern Europe. So, as a consequence of Russia intervening, the U.S. and specifically the U.S.'s Secretary of State under Joe Biden has made it clear that they're watching closely for human rights violations and the precursor to Russia seizing Kazakhstani institutions. The affairs in Kazakhstan and Almaty come off the heels of a significant military buildup on the borders of Ukraine, an Eastern European country bordering many European Union countries and NATO countries as well. Ukraine is a big, large Eastern European country that has many historical, cultural affiliations with the Russians and going back to the Kievan Rus. But in recent years, the native population of Ukraine have become increasingly anti-Russian, pro-Western, so to speak. And this pro-Western feeling has manifested in pro-Western governments. These pro-Western governments received punitive action from Russia in the form of the seizure of Crimea and portions of eastern Ukraine in 2014. And Russia does have a history of intervening on behalf of ex-Soviet republics that have a tendency to lean pro-West, more or less, pro-NATO, pro-European Union, things along these lines. Another example of this would be Georgia, almost a decade ago. So the affairs in Almaty are pretty significant because they show that Russia is in fact becoming very active in shaping its near abroad and shaping its environment. Specifically, the statement that they're making in intervening in Almaty in Kazakhstan is that Russian and Eurasian affiliated governments will receive the backing, whether that be economic, military, or political, of Russia, and presumably their nuclear blanket as well. And governments that decide to lean against Russia and pro-Western and will receive potentially punitive action in the form of normally hard power, which is Russia's preferred choice of preferred tool, more or less. Hard power, for those of you who don't know, usually comes in the form of military intervention or direct means of enforcing strength. So normally military. The precursor to Russia intervening is listed here. It's usually listed by there's usually a specific trigger, something significant that happens that makes it so that Russia would like to intervene. Real quick, I want to quote the man who's involved here, Eugene Chavosky. That's from foreignpolicy.com. I'm referencing his work here. So he says that there's usually a specific trigger, something significant that makes it so that Russia is interested in the affairs of what's going on, and it's near abroad. So in the instance of Kazakhstan, it would be the riots threatening the Kazakhstani government. In Ukraine, it would be the election of pro-Western governments, and Georgia as well. Usually, Russia requires there to be some form of support from local elements. When it was in Ukraine, it was the native population identifies as being more Russian in some parts of Ukraine. And in Almaty, Kazakhstan, there is the pro-Russian government that aligns itself politically, socially with the Russians. They would anticipate military opposition and reactions from other countries, including the one that they would be intervening in. They would, of course, assess the technical feasibility of an intervention. It would be difficult to intervene in a country if it was too far away, for example. And then the expected costs, political, economic, of intervening in the affairs of the nation state. So these are all the analysis that take place prior to Russia deciding to intervene in countries. So this is, like I said, this is from Eugene Chavosky from Foreign Policy. So I don't want to steal his work, So the most important thing to take from this is that Russia has an invested interest in maintaining its stability. Putin's favorability is going down with the Russian populace, so he's looking for a boost in his popularity. Some success in foreign policy would be something that would definitely probably help him in the eyes of the Russian populace if he somehow reincorporated historical Russian lands into Russian territory through Ukraine, or successfully bolstered the Kazakhstani government and by extension helped the native Russian people in Kazakhstan as well. These are all things that could potentially bolster Putin's favorability among the native Russian population, and that's something that's definitely needed. So both the Kazakhstani government and the Russian government have an invested interest in each other's success and maintaining their stability, and Russia's being very clear that they're invested in the affairs of their near abroad, and they plan to play a proactive role.